Hello, guys. Hope you're well. Hope you are managing to get on with some hobby. And I've got a different video this time. It's kind of broadly about the third edition project that some of you will have been keeping an eye on. It's more this time though about in general enjoying and still being able to find some some joy in previous editions of any war game really, but we'll put it into the context of Warhammer 40,000 because obviously we've got 8th edition at the moment, so it's got quite a long history of reprints and new editions and new rules, and so I'm just gonna kind of go over the concept of still being able to uh, you know uh, play these games because it's a funny thing. Let me give you an example. I got this on eBay the other day, obviously to continue my third edition project, and I got it for £1.20. It's almost like old codexes and old rule books. Then they're not even worth the paper that they're printed on. And it's a funny thing because it obviously the rules change, the game develops, and in the case of something with such a rich backstory like Warhammer 40,000, that even the storyline advances and becomes, kind of the older versions become kind of redundant. I'll give you an example, and it's a funny one because you might have thought that the storyline didn't really progress over the years until 8th edition when it was such a massive change, and the Primarchs came back to the Warhammer 40,000 universe and that kind of thing, and there was the big psychic rending, through the warp through the whole galaxy. But there's a page here which is really cool from this edition, which is the makeup of the chapter of the Ultramarines chapter and all the different battle companies. And when I was looking at which captain to make, for example, um, throughout the last sort of 20 years of 40k storyline, a bunch of these guys have died. So it has progressed in that time, and so maybe that sort of contributes to the feeling that they're not really worth anything. As soon as the next edition comes out, this is garbage almost. Um, and I know for some of you that won't be the case. You've got that. You enjoy a bit of nostalgia, as many of us do now, and that's the kind of cornerstone of this third edition project, really. But I wanted to just talk about, for those of you that might not have considered even taking a second look back, even taking 2 minutes to look back along the pathway of your kind of history in the hobby, how you can go about still getting something out of these old books and rules that you've invested in over the years. Okay, so the first thing I would do is think about what you enjoyed about these old editions, and that's what drove me to start the third edition project. There was a different aesthetic back then, which we've covered. It was brighter colors. We hadn't quite gone down the grim dark route. Not quite as grim, not quite as dark yet. Anyway, I'm kind of focusing on the turn of the edition, if you will, from second to third. That early third edition is kind of what I'm really looking to kind of embrace. So yeah, think about what you enjoyed. Maybe there was a list that you really, in fourth edition or fifth edition or sixth or whatever. There was a list that you had at the time. There was an army that you had at the time. You enjoyed the way the rules worked in general, and there was some aspect of it that that really grabbed you, and maybe it was the edition that got you into the hobby, like this one, the one that you started with. This is in my situation. That's third edition. Um, Secondly, look through your old stuff. Some of you will have shelves and drawers, a garage or an attic just full of old models, old rule books, stuff that maybe the first stuff that you painted that you never want to look at again, or that kind of thing. Just have another look through something you hasn't seen sunlight for 5, 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20 or more. Yeah, have a rifle through it, and you probably find stuff that you forgot you even had still. and that's part of the joy of it. Then you can look online. So for some of the aspects of this, I'm having to look at online about how people, for example, replace the paper banners, because just a little sort of sneak peek here. The sergeant that I'm working on for the Terminator squad, I've had to get some of these banners 3D printed, because they just don't stand the test of time. They snap and all sorts. And so yeah, I'm going to have to source the imagery online as well for those, because in some publications there are pages of banners and stuff that you can photocopy for personal use. I was kind of hoping there'd be a page in this edition, but there wasn't one. And that's also the reason why I chose to take Ultramarines as a side note as my chapter for the third edition project. I just knew I'd be able to get hold of all the transfers that I needed, and any banners, etc. So yeah, look online. There's plenty of resource. There's plenty of people that are also trying to go a bit retro, and there's Old Hammer out there is a version of the game that many people still enjoy, not just for 40k obviously, but for Warhammer Fantasy. So maybe in this context, you're an old fantasy player that didn't quite take to Sigmar, or you have taken to Sigmar, but you've got your old square-based fantasy armies in the back. You can also use those for Kings of War, which is a great game, and a game that we'll be doing some videos on, just as a side note. But yeah, look through your old stuff and have a look online, see what other people are doing, and see what other resources out there. And maybe even you can chat to your friends. So you'll have a couple of mates, a couple of club mates or something that you started with, that you enjoyed having a campaign with back in the day in a previous edition, or there was a particular army that they had that you enjoyed playing against with a particular army that you had, and you can make it a joint effort, a group effort, to embrace your gaming past and take a step back for a minute. Because if you've all still got the books, maybe you even don't. Maybe you're going to have to look online for for older codexes, older rule books and armies and models, just like I've done here. It could be something that you decide to invest in, because, as I said, this thing right here cost me £1.20. So the investment actually in some of this older stuff isn't actually that massive anymore. So maybe there was an old Necron army you enjoyed having that you're going to have to revisit and actually rebuild. And it gives you the chance to do that from a hobby perspective as well. So it might be that you enjoyed a list, but it might be the hobby aspect that sort of goes to it. I know the painting side of the hobby isn't for everybody, but maybe for you that's all part of it. As I said, it's the aesthetic sometimes that changes with different editions, that you enjoy to look back on, and it gives you the opportunity to refurbish for some miniatures. Again, another little sneak peek, but Maneas Calgar, this guy arrived the other day, and I got him for £1.50 on eBay. That's incredible. Master of the Ultramarines, £1.50. And he's going to get stripped of his paint job and redone. And a librarian for a similar amount. So yeah, some of these old miniatures now you can get for a real sort of minimal investment, and it gives you the opportunity to rediscover something that you probably haven't thought about with the changing editions. Look, I'm a gaming store owner, and the Games Workshop business model, yeah, it's great. I love 8th edition. I love all the new stuff that they're coming out with now. I'm still working on a Magnus the Red that is taking me quite a long time to finish, probably because I always get sidetracked by stuff like new projects. But he's there. He's being worked on, and I love the way that the storyline's going now. And I can't wait to see how it develops and what they come up with next. But it's cool to look back, and it doesn't have to be just, remember how that edition was, or the armies we used to have or the games we used to, you can still revisit them. You know, the words that are printed on these books can still be read and still be used and still be enjoyed, and you can still have plenty of games with previous editions. As I said, it goes for every game system, not just Warhammer 40,000. Maybe you're a Kings of War player and you preferred second edition or first edition. You maybe there's plenty of people that still enjoy, for instance, D&D 3.5 rather than fifth edition. So don't necessarily toss out your old books. Don't think they're just they're junk. You're never going to use them again. Have a flick through them and have a look online. Have a look at eBay and that kind of thing, and see what's going. See how much it is now to maybe pick up the old codex you used to love, and maybe you too can launch your previous edition project, if you will, whether it's third or fourth or fifth or whatever it might be. Yeah, so just something to think about, guys, while I work on getting the first couple of squads finished for my Ultramarines army, and they are very, very, very near to completion now. So I'll be showing you guys those as soon as they're done, hopefully later tonight, perhaps even. So until then, have a think, have a look for your old stuff, and see what gems you can uncover that you've forgotten you even had. Take care, guys.